From a flightless simulator at Ferris Air to a momentous meeting in an alley to the complex mind of an architect to every far sector in space and to the brilliance of the central power battery on Oa. This is the podcast that covers the adventures of all of your favorite ring slingers. This is the Emerald Echo with your hosts, Adam and the Emerald Enthusiast.
Welcome to another new episode of Emerald Echo, a Green Lantern podcast and vidcast. As always, I'm your host, Adam, and with me, as always, is my co-host, the Emerald Enthusiast himself, Donnie. Donnie, how's it going?
What's up, Lantern fans? It's the man whose ring runs on fanboy energy. It is the Emerald Enthusiast, and today we're going to go to work and go to war with two Green Lantern books from DC Comics.
Indeed, we are. It's always nice to have multiple Green Lantern books to discuss, isn't it?
Plus many variant covers. I think I got 7 variants outside of the two main covers.
And interesting to note a little bit of behind the scenes chicanery, which is going to sound kind of weird because you haven't heard or quote unquote seen this episode yet, but this recording is different than the last time we sat down to record. Because the last time we sat down to record was a Krypton's Legacy episode, which will probably be out after this one. Right. But the interesting thing is, Skype was causing technological issues, so we didn't have video for that episode. And I wanted to wear this shirt, this Superman shirt, last week because we were doing a Superman show. So I had to make up for it this week in hopes that the technology would work. It is working, if you could see this shirt. And so that's why I'm in a Superman shirt. I do have a long sleeve Green Lantern shirt that I got last Christmas.
Christmas.
Yeah. I got a Green Lantern shirt. I didn't get anybody's hurt, but I got a Green Lantern shirt, which is probably better because the Green Lantern shirt won't hurt me emotionally.
Exactly.
But no.
Green Lantern will never break up with you. They'll never leave you.
Yeah, but it'll take my money like an actual, having an actual relationship with. So
like a relationship. Yeah,
it's good. Either way, it works. But so yeah, that's why. But it's too. That shirt is too heavy and it's still warm here, so I won't be breaking that out just yet. Maybe in a month or so, we'll see that Green Lantern shirt more frequently. But yeah. So I'm still in Superman mode this week, but Donnie's representing with the hat.
Yeah, always representing the core.
And I'm sure he's got his neck. You have your necklace.
I actually do have my necklace. I forgot to put it on, but here it is, right here.
Yeah, it's like an episode of what was that old show, Mr. Mr. Dress Up, whatever it was.
Oh yeah, Mr.
yeah. That's what we're doing on this show now. But all right, so yeah, 2 issues of Green Lantern content to discuss. Donnie, there's a bit of...
just ironically, just like how Jordan, I just lost my ring.
No, I hope it's not the wedding ring, because then you'll be in trouble. But there is a bit of larger scale DC Studios news, Donnie, and they have... Warner Brothers has committed the space in WB Studios in Leavesden, their UK facilities,
right,
to be the hub of DC Studios productions, and they're building additional sound stages for that. So it's very possible that the eventual Green Lantern series, that is going to hopefully have more announcements once the writers and actors strikes end, will film possibly in Leavesden. So, but I think it's a good development for DC Studios, and it shows the commitment from Warner Brothers to DC Studios as an entity, and that level of commitment is something I don't think we've seen in all the regimes of the past towards DC. So that's a good sign, I would say. What are your thoughts?
I saw some American fans already throwing tantrums online.
Listen, no offense to our American viewers and listeners.
It's a worldwide company.
And listen, also, to any Canadians getting upset, I don't know why we'd get upset because we've had Titans film here, we've had the Incredible Hulk film here, we've had stuff film here. If it was a Batman film proper, I'd be camping out on the street. We've had suicides. Margot Robbie was so close to me back in 2015, but yet so far. But I digress. I'm not going to go there. I'm going to say chin up and never mind. Can't say that yet.
By the way, I finally saw the Barbie movie. She did an excellent job in that.
Oh, good. I'm glad my Earth 2 wife was my Earth 1 wife. Sorry, I better not get that screwed up. Was good and entertained you thoroughly. So that's good. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't for the people getting upset. Here's my thing. As long as they're filming, I don't care where they film. They could film they could film in Timbuktu, in Bangladesh, on Mars. I really don't care. The only place I don't want them filming is probably Zack Snyder's garage because I don't want him involved anymore. But other than that, film. You come film in my garage for all I care. Just film. So again, I think it's a positive development. I think it shows the commitment that Warner Brothers has to DC Studios as an entity, and James Gunn and Peter Safran have I assume will be getting well acquainted with the UK fairly soon. So that's good.
London's calling.
Yeah, London's calling indeed, and maybe a Green Lantern light will be shining there sooner rather than later.
Now, is that Jim Lee artwork there? I can barely see it.
Yeah, of course it is.
It's Jim. Okay, there you got
great taste. When you wear your favorite characters on your shirt, they should be drawn by one of the modern masters, and Jim Lee is certainly one of those. And
that's why I wear Darryl Banks artwork so much. Yeah,
absolutely. And
one of the great modern masters.
I actually have this comic signed by Brian Azzarello, who was the writer of that run of Superman.
Good.
So it's cool. So it's on my wall. It's on my chest, and
it's in your heart.
Yes, and no, I'm not wearing any superhero undergarments, so we won't go there. But even if I was, we wouldn't go there anyway because this is a family show.
Yeah, exactly.
With that being said, Donnie, let's get into.
Well, I'm glad we're still on the air after Jeff Thorne rubbed his chest that one time.
It was doing like a quasi Gold Dust imitation, which was
exactly.
But no, that was a fun interview. Good times.
Yeah. Great guy. By the way, made some contributions to this series, the War Journal. So, Philip Kennedy Johnson has credited him, and we'll talk about that in a little while.
Yes, indeed. But again, as we talked about, we have 2 Green Lantern books to cover. So let's start with the Hal Jordan issue, which is issue 3 of Green Lantern, correct?
Yes. Written by Jeremy Adams and drawn by Zermanico. There is a backup story, and that is John Stewart Homecoming Part 3, and that leads into Green Lantern War Journal.
Yeah, and it gave us some answers, too. So
on the A cover, it says, Sinestro will pay. And, each word has a period after it.
My question is, how will he pay? Will it be cash, credit card, Bitcoin, PayPal? What's the situation here?
Well, I hear that NFTs are kind of worthless now. So if he brought any of those from,
I still don't know what those are, but whatever. Yeah, good riddance. If they're going the way of the dodo bird, good riddance, because I don't know what they are.
So anyway, this issue opens up with Hal Jordan kind of mysteriously in space. Okay, now what's happened here is that the first page, his ring has cut out on him. And I actually learned from an interview with Jeremy Adams that his ring will not allow him to leave Earth, at least all the way. Now, I don't know how he's surviving here because he's clearly out of the Earth's atmosphere, and yet he's still conscious. So I'll have to ask Jeremy Adams about that at one point. I'm like, how is he conscious? How is his skin not bubbling or his blood boiling or whatever since he's in space with no working ring? But it's a story called The More Things Change.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really, again, I found that opening bit very interesting because, we've had questions about the nature of this ring.
Mm-hmm. And we still have them.
From the get-go, because remember, last time we saw Hal, there were issues with the ring, and then they had just, if we're going off of Jeff Thorne's run, everything had kind of gotten, there was a little bit of a switcheroo happening. Things got altered, so who knows what the state of what, right? So we're left with questions, and now this ring, wherever it came from or whatever it is,
it came from the Manhunter armor,
right, yeah.
But we don't exactly know the nature of that. How Hal was able to basically make a ring out of that armor,
right,
and he's still learning.
Yeah,
this, and so we get like the image here. The first pages after that, Hal falls to Earth, and he's like, I need to jumpstart this with my, I need to jumpstart the ring with my will. By the way, I really like the panel that gives you kind of a shaky cam type of look to it. That, he's really, not only is he falling to Earth, which has got to be, pretty worrisome if you just fell from space and you don't have a working ring. But I like that kind of, I like the motion and the dynamic nature of that.
Yes.
And he's able to activate it right before he hits the ground with the sound.
Right. Oh, you're doing sound effects now. This is good.
Exactly.
You know what, Donnie? I'm just going to have you read all my comics to me from now on. That's what I'm going to do.
I would love to have a job reading comics.
And then what I'll do is I'll pull the old, since I got a Superman shirt on, I'll pull the John Peters trick and I just do this and imagine the image as you're reading. And it'll be fun.
Exactly.
But
you gotta do like Jack Black did that one time, like have your dad come behind you and like flap the cape while you're pretending to fly.
yeah. So it's what are the exact capabilities of this ring? What are the limitations? These are things that we still don't know, and so it's going to be interesting to hopefully, presumably, find out. The other interesting thing is that when he does land, he lands in sort of a
it's kind of the wilderness, middle of kind of nowhere. Right. Yeah.
And there's a lot of animals, deer around. So he tries to make a construct, and he makes a deer. A
is it a deer? Is it a deer, or is it a gazelle or an impala?
I don't know.
It's some kind of more wild animal. It's not a deer.
Okay, there was a deer there though, right?
No, it was a cheetah. It was a cheetah, and what I think is
but wasn't there a bunch of deers there as well?
Not from what I can see.
Why do I have deers on the brain?
Anyway, yeah,
I'm confused. Whatever. Anyway, there's a bunch of
deer.
Animals. It's like the friggin' Lion King. And there's even a reference to the Lion King when the what'd you say, the leopard?
Yeah, there's.
I think it's a cheetah. Of the Discovery Channel.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Or
there's a cheetah comes out. And
cheetah. Yeah. See, I would not be working for National Geographic folks.
Not the Wonder Woman villain, an actual cheetah.
An actual cheetah comes and attacks or tries to run to the construct, and Hal makes the comment. He's like, "We won't be enjoying the circle of life today, my friend," and or something along those lines. And then he flies off. The interesting thing about that I want to call out about the artwork is when I think it was the next scene where we see Hal flying towards Washington, or we see a shot of Washington, and it's we're seeing a lot of the quintessential Washington monuments, right? And they look
first the scene cuts to Coast City first, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. Yeah.
Right. But what I wanted to call out about that was the way it was drawn looks very photo realistic. Like it looks like like you're almost looking at a picture of the actual monument. So the art style, was slightly altered, and it looked really good. Like for a second there, my eye was like, is that an actual just a picture of the monument? And I'm like, no, it's drawn, but it looks so
realistic.
Yeah.
So before we talk about what's happening in Coast City, let me point out two things here. Number one, there's no AI in this ring. Hal actually says that here. There's no AI to translate. And he starts to, just kind of work with the ring a little bit to see what some of the boundaries and abilities are. Mm-hmm. And he's able to not only make a construct, but change colors with it.
Yeah.
Which is something that we haven't seen in quite a while.
Yes.
But he's getting more proficient with this ring as he learns about it. Yeah.
Which is cool. Yeah, I mean, it's something that giving Hal this new ring provides an opportunity where we're not seeing the expert ring slinger Hal Jordan. We're seeing him learn and adapt, and that's something we haven't seen really.
Yeah, and it makes sense. This is an Earthbound story.
Yeah,
that there's actually narratives, kind of safeguards. Yeah. That it's not just happenstance that he's here. There's a reason that everything is taking place on Earth right now, and I like that.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, no, it's very interesting. Like I said, we're on this journey of discovery with Hal. That's kind of nice. It brings back memories of, kind of working through all this with Kyle, right?
Right.
So he kind of
you and I have talked in the past about the versatility of Green Lantern. That not only can you tell a lot of great space stories, and it is more of a space opera than anything else, but you can tell great stories like this on Earth with a single character. And there are so many characters that are so rich and versatile that you can have a story like this, and it's very intriguing.
And we're still getting aliens, so it all works out, right?
Yeah. Speaking of, we see Sinestro here in Coast City, and he puts the squeeze on 2 Laurens. So, those very familiar to Green Lantern fans.
Yes.
And so, what did you think of this scene, though? Because there's one thing that I'm a little, I was a little confused by. But what were your impressions of this?
First of all, just the way they were portrayed, the whole shape shifting from your human disguise.
Right.
It reminded me something out of Star Trek, which I'm a Star Trek fan, so I like that. Right.
It's a very technological type of.
They remind me of the Gorn,
shifting,
but smarter. I don't know if you remember the Gorn.
Right. Yeah.
The Gorn, but more intelligence and more evolved, right? But what I found interesting was the back and forth where, Sinestro is trying to use the credibility of the Legion of Doom,
right.
I think, right? And to kind of sway the Larens to come on to work with him. And they kind of laugh it off like, okay, Lex is in jail and the rest of them are all scattered. This is not a negotiating tactic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then and they kind of laugh at him, and then Sinestro's he's like, well, how would you like it if I notified the heroes of this world of your activities? And then so like that whole bargaining chip aspect of it was very intriguing, right?
Yeah. And this is the kind of scene where Sinestro shines.
Yes.
This kind of, seedy underbelly, negotiating, strong arm tactics. That's the one thing I didn't understand, though, is that, and I'm probably reading too much into this, but I do this, I kind of hyper focus on details.
Really? Who would have thought?
Well, one of the Laurens runs at him and he just kind of smacks him away. And I'm like, okay, so he doesn't have a ring. I don't see any weapon. I don't ever remember Sinestro having that level of super strength where he could just take another being and smack them to the side that easily.
Right.
Am I reading too much into that? What do you think?
I mean, it could go either way. There could because there's so much unknown with Sinestro the last time we saw him and what's happened in the intervening, period. So It could be that you're reading too much into it, but it could be something. There could be something to that.
You think he's taking steroids on
Because
Korrigar?
maybe listen, maybe he talked to Vince McMahon's handlers and they found some of the juice right from back in the 80s. Who knows?
Try some of these, pal.
Maybe they're Slim Jims. We don't know, but maybe he's on a steady diet of the Slim Jims. But again, you're right. It doesn't appear that he has a ring anywhere in his vicinity. So, right. How is he doing that, or is it just?
Yeah. Which I also wonder if there's a connection between the absence of the ring and what happened on Korrigar. The possible death, and we'll get to that too.
I just think the backhanded slap was the best part because it's such an insulting. Like he's just like,
you're beneath me. That's kind of his attitude towards pretty much everybody in the world.
Pretty much,
in the whole universe. Yeah, you're beneath me. Yeah. So the scene cuts to Ferris here, and we see that Sinestro now has the help of several metahumans. One of which I thought originally was like Tygor, but Tygor's, Green Lantern fans will know, member of the Omega Man, has always been more on the heroic side, so I don't think that that's actually him. But Sinestro has backup now, as well as a big blaster. So he's able to break into Ferris Air. And you see him. I love the shot. Like, you don't see his eyes. You just see his nose and his mouth. And he's like, perfect. You can hear that. Yeah.
Very villainy there. Very menacing. Yeah.
By the way, I also want to say, when we cut back to Hal here, the way that his mask is drawn, and I'm huge into details when it comes to the way Green Lanterns are drawn. I like the fact that the mask is a good shape, and he also has the solid white eyes, which I've always preferred. I think that just makes more sense.
Yeah.
And it also makes him look more mysterious. So.
And I like that we got a scene of him like just relaxing and playing baseball with some kids just to kill some time.
Maybe.
Or it seems to be. And I like the part where he's helping give self-confidence to that kid who's getting picked on. Mm-hmm. Like he helps him along.
Yeah, Stewie.
And then what was even funnier was Kilowog in the
stands, yeah.
In the stands saying, that picture ain't nothing. He's like, so making fun of Hal and all that. That was kind of fun. So that was cool. That moment, actually, the baseball scene reminded me of Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman.
Yeah.
There was a scene where Superman was playing baseball with some kids, and so he was playing all the positions, the other positions, all the kids. And so that was kind of reminiscent of that, so it was kind of cool. But yeah, so I thought that was a cool scene. Again, that maybe, given what you've kind of put forth and speculated. Mm-hmm. But the fact that scene was there anyway, it was a nice kind of interlude.
Right.
With all the Sinestro's nefarious shenanigans.
Yeah. So eventually I'm going to be able to look back on this scene and say one of two things. Number one, it was heartwarming, maybe, or that this is all happening in Hal Jordan's head. And that's what I'm thinking here.
Okay.
Now, again, I'm not saying that he's hallucinating, but the more weird things that you see in a scene, the more that it kind of lends itself to the fact that it might be wishful thinking on the part of the person who is seeing what we're seeing here.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And so the first thing that came to mind is I was like, okay, so Kilowog's in the stands. Nobody's reacting to the fact that there's a giant pig bulldog man here. He still doesn't have his ring, which we don't know why that would be. He's not in his uniform. And Hal is actually what looks like an actual Little League game, and they're letting him play. The whole thing is weird. And then Hal actually gets a notice on a smartphone from Carol. Now, I'm going to assume that this is a Ferris Air issued smartphone because Hal's broke. How in the world did he buy a smartphone? Those things aren't cheap.
True.
And it's not a contract.
Yeah. So he probably got one from work, or, I mean, he's the Green Lantern. If he walks into an Apple store Can I have a phone? Or are they going to say no? How many times does he save the world?
Right.
Same with the Little League game. If a superhero offers to have some fun with the kids,
Yeah.
are they going to say no? Right? Now, Kilowog being there, in full
In
non.
sweatpants and a tank
Yeah.
top.
But, you say that people aren't afraid of him. The counterpoint I could give at this point, they know what the Green Lantern Corps are. Like, humanity knows what they are. So it's like.
It could be. Sure. Yeah.
I'm playing devil's advocate there. So, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see how this unfolds. But and then Carol. Yeah, I love when he's flying to meet.
Yeah.
Carol, and he's running through the possibilities of, hey, maybe she broke up with
with Nathan. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, whatever his name is there. Yeah.
Yeah. Nathan. Yeah. And the panel that you're talking about is here on that next page after the scene with Kilowog and the kids flying over Washington.
Right.
And, that's really beautiful. Just everything, the way that is done, the background, and of course Hal's flying over it. So.
Yeah. And then he meets Carol, and she shows him the footage of Sinestro.
Yeah, and I know the scene you're talking about. Hal, once again, Hal, stop hitting on somebody who has a fiance.
Well, listen, this has become commonplace with superheroes. Like remember, let's go back. There was Batman hit on Rachel when she was with Harvey Dent. Like, he was still pining for her. We had Superman trying to win back Lois Lane when she was dating Cyclops in Superman Returns. Remember, he took her flying, and I'll never forget the dialogue where she's like, Richard takes me up flying all the time, and Superman's like, not like this, and I'm like, you're damn right, not like that. But and then there was, I don't know if you know, again, off topic since I'm wearing a Superman shirt. There's the part where he flies her back. He's gonna fly her back to the Data Planet, and he's like, "I'll take you back now," which was like this double entendre of, "I'm taking you back to the planet, but I'll also take you back as,
as my significant other, right?"
Yeah, right. So I'm just thinking of that. But anyway, at least he wasn't snapping any necks in that movie. But I digress. Back to the book.
So what we see here is that Carol is actually, she has a laptop in a plane. Hal boards the plane, and she shows Hal the security footage from Sinestro breaking into Ferris Air.
Right.
And immediately the tone changes, and he's like, I don't know why he's here. She doesn't know why he's here. And they both apologize to one another because things change now. It's no longer about, Hal trying to be, the coy ex-boyfriend and get back in with his ex-flame. Yeah, now it's serious.
Now there's real consequences about to take place.
Yeah.
Here's my question to you: is I have a thought that we're gonna see Nathan make a exit from the scene in a very deadly way, courtesy of Sinestro.
That's possible. I had the same thought. I'm like, that kind of seems like the thing he would do is, just to hurt Carol, because we all know in the past he doesn't like Carol either.
Is there anybody he does like?
He does love his daughter. We will say that.
Well, I mean, you'd have to be a heartless SOB if you were a father not to care about your daughter.
Right. Yeah. So interesting here. We see Hal is actually in a bar now, and it just says later. And we see him in a bar, and he's remembering the battle on Corrigar. And again, you see Hal and Sinestro and Kilowog. And it says, I have to find him. I have to stop him. I have to, or it just says, make him pay for what he did to ... But I think the inference here is that something happened to Kilowog. Right. Now, again, I could be wrong. It could be somebody like Saronic, but the clues here are pointing to.
Yeah, if Kilowog was, if you're wrong about Kilowog, but the person that something happened to was Nort.
I don't think that would make for a great story, but yes.
All right, just thought I'd check.
Exactly. They can make Nort like Kenny from South Park, to where like Nort dies every issue and then comes back and then does. Yeah. So anyway, but no, I mean,
then the ending has Sinestro just there and saying, "Oh, whatever he said," but he announced his presence, right?
What he says is, "Hello, Lantern Jordan. I believe you've been looking for me." And it's funny that we talk about wrestling. You know who I thought of? As soon as you see him walk in, I heard Eric Bischoff's theme, "I'm back." And better than ever. And then I realized, I was like, he kind of reminds me of the Eric Bischoff character a little bit,
Yeah, slimy, jerk.
Yeah, he kind of got one up on the Green Lantern Corps for, he got one up on his competition.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and the Sinestro Corps was kind of like the NWO, very disruptive.
Right. And then they got cocky, and their foes beat them. So I'm like, yeah, okay.
And then the Red Lanterns could be like the NWO Wolfpack, right? It so works.
And for that, have we ever seen Eric Bischoff and Sinestro in the same room? I don't think so.
No. Listen, somebody should call James Gunn and say, look, if you need Sinestro for that show. But while we were in the bar, there was the menu on the chalkboard, and there was something written there. I was legit trying to read the menu. Don't ask me why. I might have been hungry when I read it, but
right.
But yeah.
I just really like that it's just Hal and Sinestro, and it says next Sinestro's Revenge. So the thing is that you're led to believe by the main cover that Hal and Sinestro were going to get into it. In this issue, it didn't happen. We know covers, things like that, they don't always tell you what's going to happen inside.
Right.
But it seems like the next issue, they are going to get into it. So
right, yeah. Yeah, they got to sell the book.
So that is the end of that. What did you think, sir?
Well, are we doing the backup first, or are we rating them?
Well, I thought we were going to rate.
Okay, yeah.
This is what I think we should do. I think we should rate that story and then rate the backup with the first issue.
Okay, so you want to roll the backup into the. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I'm gonna give it the story a 4, because a lot. I mean, there is progression with the Sinestro side of things. With Hal, it's more. He starts the issue. We see he's having issues with the ring, so it leaves you with more questions than answers. And then there's a little bit of him waiting around. For 2/3 of the issue, he's waiting around like he's playing baseball, or supposedly playing baseball with the kids, while he's waiting for Carol, and then he's waiting at the bar for Sinestro. So, but on the Sinestro side, there was a lot of progression. So yeah, it's not a perfect 5, but a solid 4. Okay. And then for the art, it's a 5, because I just was some really beautiful stuff there. Like you said, the kind of shaky cam when he was falling to earth was really cool, and then the photorealistic shots of the Washington scenery and monuments was really beautiful to look at. So a 5 for the art. So overall, 9 out of 10 for the whole book.
Cool. Yeah. I'm going to say 4.5 on the writing and 5 on the art. Again, I thought the art was really innovative. A lot of different things here. Like even just, Sinestro on the security cam, the way that he's kind of like pixelated.
Yeah.
It's things like that kind of draw you into
little
the
details.
story.
Yeah, exactly.
Little details like that. And again, almost a very iconic image, I think, gives, Sinestro and Hal Jordan coming back together face to face in a bar, both in their civilian clothes, but ready to renew that rivalry. And I'm very excited about where this story is going to go. So
right, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So 4.5 and 5.
It just what I will say, I think what the hell was the name of that event? Gee, for the love of God, I can't even remember these things. Night Terrors.
Yeah, Night Terrors. You got it.
Yeah, it took me 5 minutes, but I got it.
I thought you were getting ready to say Winter's End.
Yeah, whatever. That'll come in December. But can't wait till they announce a sequel. Forever Winter, or Endless Snowfall, or whatever the hell they'll call it. But I thought the Night Terrors,
Endless Winter.
Endless Winter Night Terrors. But anyway, the Night Terrors event miniseries really did, like, the delay between issues 2 and 3 really did hamper things a bit. Like, to get back into it took a little bit of, so I really wish that event would have been, purposely planned out to happen on Halloween instead of, hey, after issue 2 of launching a new series, look at this.
Yeah, I think everybody has felt that way, that it was just an oddly timed event.
Yeah.
Wasn't anything wrong with it, just the timing was very odd.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was so short. It wasn't like a big company-wide edict. It was just, oh, by the way, we're going to take a break and tell these stories for 2 months, and then we're going to jump back into everything else.
And apparently it's hurt a little bit of the sales from issue 2 of Green Lantern to issue 3. Of course, because there's a 2-month gap between issues, that's going to happen. So
I would think, if you're somebody who's just a casual reader who may be picking up Green Lantern just to see what the flavor is here with Jeremy Adams and Zermanico, and if all of a sudden after 2 issues you have to jump into something else, you might look at that and say, I don't want to do that. So again, I question the timing of DC, but even though I like the event. So
it was a little weird, but it did take a little bit of, a couple of pages to re-engage and remember where we were with the book. But yeah. All right, so let's take a quick break. And then on the other side of the break, we'll come back and do
Green Lantern War Journal.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So don't go anywhere. Get your popcorn.
Come right back. We'll be right back.
What's up, everyone? It's the Emerald Enthusiast. For all of your multiverse viewing and listening needs, check out our shows, which include Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters, Power Rangers, the Marvel Universe, and the DC Universe, including the Emerald Echo podcast. You can check us out on Podbean, and remember to subscribe right here on YouTube. That's the Multiverse Musings Podcast Network. From the first podcast to the last. And we're back.
We are, and as promised, there is another Green Lantern issue to discuss. Green Lantern War Journal #1. Donnie, tell us about it.
Okay, well, we have to stick with Green Lantern #3 because remember, there's the backup story. So, what we see in this, again, just a few pages, but it's part of a story called Rise of the Revenant Queen. This is part 3. Written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, artist is Montos, and the colorist is Adriano Lucas. So this opens up with John opposing the Radiant Dead and the Revenant Queen, and both John and Lantern Shepherd. And again, this is, as it says, another time, another universe.
Okay, so right there is the answer. We now we know. Remember, we were wondering that the last time we were here.
Well, and the other John, that's on Earth 0, so we'll get to that in a minute.
Our John, I suppose.
Yes, that's the John, the focal point of the story that we get in Green Lantern War Journal.
Yeah.
But we see John here, again, doesn't have a ring, but he is creating all of these construct. Like there's some monsters and a bunch of soldiers and a tank. It's just so beautiful. And there's various angles here that really give you the idea of like energy of a big battle happening.
Yeah.
So you see it from above, you see it from below, and I just love this, and I love the way that the Revenant Queen looks. She's just so unsettling.
Yeah, it looks like
I have some theories on who it might be, and I'll talk about that at the end here.
Space zombies.
Yeah.
Space zombies. That's what they
very much. And like I said, I just like how unsettling she is with kind of the half face. But one of the big things we see here is that she is wearing a ring. And that allows her to escape because she's easily defeated by John. Remember, John is incredibly powered up here.
Yeah.
And she's able to escape into another universe with the sound boom. And
this new sound effect thing, I dig it. I gotta say this.
Well, I just, that's one of the things I like about comics are the sound effects,
Yeah.
So, yeah, so she escapes, and Shepard tells John that she's most likely going to go after that universe's John Stewart.
Yes.
And that is the Earth Zero John Stewart, the focal point of this. And then the scene cuts to that. John, again, at his mother's home, and he's talking to a hologram of Guy Gardner.
Which,
And
if he ever gets annoying, can you just shut the hologram off? Or how does that work?
The thing that I really like here is that the big theme with John is that he's trying to establish a life outside of the core because he realizes that it's been his life for so long that maybe he doesn't know who he is outside of the core, but he also can't leave it.
Yes, he definitely struggles to escape the.
Right. Now, even though he's he's ascended, he doesn't have a ring, but he is still, he is still about that life. I mean, he's still looking to the stars, thinking about the core, and we see more of him looking, pondering his past events in the upcoming issue.
The interesting thing to me is in addition to, seeing him kind of struggle between wanting a more homebound, earthbound life, but still having the pull of being out there as a member of the core, is that he talks about his mom going through life ending, a life ending stage or whatever.
Yeah.
So clearly something's wrong with her, and then we're gonna find out more. We do find out more and more, Juno, what I think is happening with her. But we'll get there when we get there. But so it's very complex. He's got a lot on his plate.
He's not leaving, because he's upset with anything, even though we have what's going on with the United Planets. It's not that. It's not that he's frustrated and leaving. He's really trying to establish another life for himself. Plus, we learn that there's something massive going on with his mother, and that's why he feels the need to stay earthbound, or to try to stay earthbound.
Yeah.
So, but the big revelation here is that we see a ring that has a mysterious symbol on it flying through the air as John and Guy look up at it. And John says, there's nothing out there that you can't handle without me. But we get the idea that this ring is going to be something that presents problems.
Yes, that will need John to fly back into action, as it were.
Yes, indeed. All right. So then we get Green Lantern War Journal #1.
Right.
And the big opening scene, and I really like this sequence because it reminded me a lot of like space epics like Aliens.
Yeah.
And some things like
that.
Or
even that Sandra Bullock movie, the one where you talked about the space scene, right?
Yeah.
The one where George Clooney's in it for like 10 minutes and then his character gets killed off.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of that.
Yeah.
That part, anyway. The rest
was that
of the movie,
Gravity? Is that
yeah,
what
the rest of the movie I didn't care about, but that scene. That was still when I was harboring a resentment over Batman and Robin. I was like, good! You're gone in about 10 minutes. I love it.
Well, I can't fault.
I've mellowed out since then.
I can't fault you there because I'm still mad about a certain casting in Spider-Man 3, but I won't go into that because it's not that kind of podcast. Anyway.
There's a hot toy of not that character, but of the black suit Spider-Man 3, Peter Parker, the emo,
Yeah. I do have the real Venom here, but anyway, hot toy.
The big one with the tongue sticking out.
Yes,
Yes,
exactly. So anyway, back to the story here. We see that it's a group of astronauts, and we see a lady named Jane who is outside of the craft, and we see that ring that we saw at the end of issue #3 with Green Lantern, and it is speeding through space, and her suit is cracked and she starts to basically go unconscious. But then this ring comes up to her and basically takes control of her. And the inference here, because we see the reflection of the Revenant Queen in her helmet, is that this ring actually is the Revenant Queen.
Yeah.
Or at least it contains like her essence or something like that.
Spirit,
yeah. And so this ring comes up to Jane and like sets her on like fire, like a purple type of fire. And
again, the horror imagery of this, is very strong. Like it looks like a horror book almost.
Yeah, and this is all with like all of her crew inside. They're all dying. The craft is breaking apart, and they're screaming for her to help them outside get control of the craft. But once she sees this ring, it completely like turns her focus, and it then begins to change her. So yeah, just a really horrifying scene. Some really great art here, by the way. The expressions on the astronauts here, it's magnificent.
Like it could be a horror book, honestly.
Yeah.
Quite easily. So you were saying that you have an idea of who the
And I do, and I'll get to that at the end. I have some candidates. None of them exactly line up, but there are things that I think that could, at least possibilities.
All right. Okay. All right.
So the next couple of pages, there's no dialogue on the next couple of pages, which I thought was very interesting, because what we see is that John is trying to establish a civilian life. And one of the things that happens here is that he runs out of gas at a red light. And as he's sitting there, instead of thinking of ways to get that taken care of, we see that his mind is on him flying through the sky with his ring burning bright. And a memory, later on, we see him digging a hole, and his mind comes on a time that he, I guess, saved Estonia, which is the planet where St. Walker came from, because that looks like those type of aliens, the type of alien, the Estonians where St. Walker came from.
And I like those flashbacks because you get, classic Jon Stewart with the costume, the full 9 yards. I really dug those flashbacks. They're really cool.
But I like that gives you the inner struggle here, and it really tells kind of the heart of this story is that John's trying to, come to terms with kind of a day-to-day normal existence, but his mind is still in the sky. His mind is still with his ring and with the core. And so you can see that kind of internal struggle. And I really like, that there are some panels where he's like looking off into the distance and sweating, and like, you can see the inner turmoil, and I just really like that you can see that type of drama going on.
Yes, for sure. And again, it goes back to the struggle of sort of being torn between two types of lifestyle.
Yeah. And we're going to see exactly why he's putting so much effort into trying to stay earthbound here, because we see that he interacts with his mother. He goes inside and he's fixing the dishwasher. And we see that his mother begins to talk to him, and she is experiencing some type of memory loss. It seems that maybe she has Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
And because she repeats stories over and over. And I've seen people go through this before, and I know the heartbreak of that. So for me, seeing the conversations between John and her, I really felt that, because you can see him struggling, because this is his mother.
Absolutely. Even when she asks about the sister,
right,
who is long gone.
Right, that's Ellie. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he just instead of providing her with that heartbreak again, he just creates a construct of his sister so that she can interact with her. And it's hard watching those scenes, or watching and reading those scenes is hard, because my grandmother is suffering from dementia. So yeah, like you said, you see that, right? Like, so every week when we call her, the question is she going to remember me this week? Is she not? So seeing what John is going through, we've had those experiences to certain degrees. So it definitely hit the emotionally those scenes. So yeah.
But I really want to give Philip Kennedy Johnson really props for this one panel, because we see that one of the things that happens here is that John's mom is telling him about this time, that the first time basically that he ever took the plumbing apart.
Right, yeah.
Because she said you wanted to see how it worked from the middle. And that is the core of John Stewart in the way that he has used his power, his ring in the past.
Yeah.
He builds things from the inside out. It's very intricate. It's very exact. And that is John Stewart in the way that he uses his ring.
Well, he's also referred to by some as the master builder, right? So
right, exactly. But the point is here is that if you've never read a Green Lantern book before and you pick this up, you can see just how John uses his power, the way that he thinks, the very complex and intricate way that he thinks. And I just really like that. That Philip Kennedy Johnson really brought that into this story and how important it was. So
yeah, that was very well done.
Yeah. Now, while John is inside and doing this, he all of a sudden senses a presence outside. Remember, this is Ascended John.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't have a ring, but he still has Green Lantern-like powers on another level. And he goes outside, and there is a Green Lantern named Varen, who has been appointed by the United Planets and is not very good at his job.
No. And he has very little tact as well.
Yeah, exactly. No tact, and thinks that he's going to easily overpower John Stewart here because he thinks John has a ring when he shouldn't, and he tries to arrest him, and he tries to put chains on John. Of all the people in the world that you don't want to put chains on, John Stewart's John breaks that, and I love that so much that John says, "You don't know the culture, but I get that, but let me explain something to you. If you ever try to put a chain on me again, you better learn how to use that ring first." And his eyes glow red, and the chain breaks off of him, and I'm like, that is awesome.
Yeah, it was. And then the other scene too was he's like, "Oh, and never come to my mother's home again." Yeah. And he kind of punches him so hard that he punches him into space. That was.
And he punches him twice, and Varen, he yields. So I think we can say that the Green Lanterns who have gotten their rings from the United Planets probably aren't very good. Okay?
So this Varen guy, is kind of like the equivalent of the Brooklyn Brawler of Green Lantern.
Yeah, he might.
And he just comes there.
Yeah, in wrestling terms, he's a jobber.
Yeah. But you know, the part where he's like, "Never come to my mother's home," it was reminiscent of one of my favorite parts of Man of Steel, where Zod was attacking Martha Kent's home.
Yeah, why'd you say that name?
and then Superman flies in and says, "You think you can threaten my mother?"
Yeah, that scene. That might be my favorite Superman moment.
There were moments of brilliance in that movie that sadly didn't sustain the 2.5-hour runtime, but I digress. That moment was brilliant, and it reminded me of that. This moment in the comic reminded me of that. So cool.
So again, John easily defeats Varen, knocks him back into space, and goes back inside. And it's funny that John does that, and then easily goes back inside.
All right, let's get dinner. Let's get dinner going. Yeah.
And this is what you're talking about here, because his mother, again, with the neurological issues that she's going through, doesn't remember that his John's sister, his young sister, is dead. And John is like, you know what? And makes that construct and gives her a moment with her daughter.
Yeah.
And what's really heartwarming here too is John actually does the correct thing. When somebody has memory issues, you're not supposed to tell them, "Hey, you know, you've already told me that," because that just gets them frustrated because they can't remember.
Yeah.
What he does is reorient her. Even though he's heard the story 1,000 times, he's like, "You know what, Mom? Why don't you tell me about the time that I first fixed the plumbing?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just a very heroic.
Yeah, very well done. Yeah, very well done. Very well written. Very well handled. Yeah.
So interestingly enough, now the scene cuts to space, and Lantern Shepherd is looking at the remains of the craft that was destroyed, and where we saw Jane get that ring.
Yeah.
And it's interesting here. He's talking either to his ring or some other kind of presence here. And it's interesting that it says, one of the exchanges here, it says, the gaping holes to which ordinary men are blind. And Lantern Shepherd says, you're one to talk of blindness. I'm wondering, is this some version of, do you remember when Kyle was the blind prophet in that issue that Philip Kennedy Johnson wrote?
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's who he's talking to. Like, it says here that whoever that he lost his body or whatever, so it's some kind of spirit, or perhaps an AI in the ring, or a spirit.
You're saying it's an alternate version of Kyle?
It's some kind of version of Kyle that was the blind prophet.
Could be. I can see that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was part of the crisis.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was when John was in that other world, that dream world.
What crisis was it now? I forget. There's so many.
That was Dark Crisis.
Yeah, thank you.
Which eventually, I think, became Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yes, yeah. Listen.
Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths during the endless winter. And
you know what? Clearly, I've had enough of these big events with these funky names.
Yeah.
You know what I like? I like Green Lantern. I like Detective Comics. I like Action Comics. I like Batman. I like Superman. It's nice and simple. I know what I'm reading. And none of this nonsense.
But Lantern Shepherd goes inside that craft, and you see that the Radiant Dead are inside that craft.
Yeah.
And and of course, I mean, these, and what I'm talking about.
I like that name, the Radiant Dead. That's cool.
Yeah. These are the astronauts from earlier on in the issue. Yeah. They've been turned into the Radiant Dead. So
right, yeah.
Yeah. So he is, he fights back, and but we get the idea here from that mysterious voice that if the Radiant Dead have reached Earth, you're on borrowed time. This battle won't be won here. Yeah. So he fights back, but he's able to get away from them. And he's able to get out
to go find John Stewart.
Right. He's able to get outside the craft, but he's still fighting at this point. Yeah. And it says next issue, The Soldier and the Green Knight.
Yeah.
But man, do I love the way that they're drawn. It's like, it reminds me, there was one story in the movie Heavy Metal, that had kind of creatures, zombie type of creatures like this. And I just love this idea of zombies in space. It just brings together so many elements of what I like.
It gives me vibes of.
The Black Lanterns.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See what I mean? Too many events. Too many events. That's the problem. Yeah. Black is
I love how it's this issue. It's creepy in points. It's action packed at some points. And it also advances the storyline with the United Planets.
Got some emotion in there.
And at the same time, that's exactly what I was going to say. Very emotional. So, man, Philip Kennedy Johnson did a great job with this.
I don't know how he does it all. He's got Action Comics going. He's got this.
The Hulk.
The Incredible Hulk, which is really good. Maybe we should start doing next time we do a Marvel Masterworks.
Yeah.
We'll do some reviews on his Hulk run. He's just such a good storyteller. Yeah. And he has a great handle on these characters, and every
that's where things end here is Shepherd trying to find Earth Zero's version of John Stewart.
Yeah.
So.
And I wonder if we're going to get a meeting of the two Johns.
Right.
Some point.
Yeah. John Squared.
Yeah.
But again, I do have some ideas about who the Revenant Queen might be.
All right.
Yeah. So, do you want to rate this first before?
All right. Yeah, we'll rate it first.
Okay. I'm going to go 5 and 5.
For me, it's 5 story and art across the board. Yeah.
Yeah. I love the start of this and
getting to see a lot more of Montos's art, which you don't get to see much in the backup because it's only anywhere between 3 to 10 pages. But here you get a full book's worth, and it's amazing.
Okay. So as far as who the Revenant Queen might be, I have some ideas, and the first two I think are the most likely, but neither one like completely line up. Number one is that because the word Revenant means like resurrected, especially after a long period of time. Okay. So is the Revenant Queen some corrupted version of Ellie? Is it some version of his sister?
That would be insanely interesting.
Yeah, it would be. Another possibility is that, again, it seems to be somebody close to John, since she is pursuing John into this other Earth. Maybe it's Kat Matui or some version of Kat Matui that has been resurrected by that ring.
Could be.
Yeah. Next, and I'm not exactly sure how this would work. Possibly it's some version of Fatality. We know, she has issues with the Green Lantern Corps. Could there be another version who is after John? That doesn't work quite as well as the other two.
Yeah, that one doesn't stand out as much as the other two, but I mean.
Yeah. Then there's Moraine. Do you remember John's girlfriend during Volume 3, the alien who had the blue skin?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly what, but again, it would have to be an alternate version of her.
Yeah.
But again, that's another, again, key female character in Jon Stewart's history. And here's the one that I think is the least likely, but there's a reason why I say this. I noticed that the astronauts died of lack of oxygen.
Yeah.
Okay, and that they were all male. Okay, so the very first star Sapphire actually wasn't Carol Ferris. It was just a character in the Golden Age known as the Star Sapphire.
Okay.
One of her key characteristics was that she hated men, and that she tried to send all the men on Earth away, and she also tried to steal all the oxygen.
Oh.
And so I looked at that symbol, and I'm like, it's not an exact match. But I'm like, is that symbol some version of the Golden Age Star Sapphire? And that was Philip Kennedy Johnson's way of telling us that that's who it is, with the astronauts dying of the lack of oxygen and the fact that they were all male and that the ring sought out a female.
See, that's more plausible than the two that you just put forth before that.
I still think that's the least likely, but yeah, it's going to be somebody significant. I don't think this is a brand new character.
Right, yeah. I like your first two theories the best.
Or at least I should say an alternate version of a previously existing character. It could be a version that we've never seen before, but there's going to be some connection, I believe, to Jon Stewart.
Oh, it would have to be, I would think, the way they're setting it up. But yeah, personally, I like either one of your first two theories, just because I think that would have the most emotional, gut-wrenching impact, right? So, yeah. But I guess we'll have to wait and see how that unfolds, but we're off to an interesting start, and I can't wait till next issue.
Likewise, that's the only thing about getting done with an issue like this, especially with one that starts a new series that you've been anticipating and waiting for. The issue gets done, and you're like, now what?
Damn it! Now I gotta wait a month. But then you look over at your stack of comic books and it's like, well, I got stuff to read. So
I look at it and I'm like, well, I only have like 8 piles that I haven't read yet, so I can get to work on this.
But
so,
it's a good time to be a Green Lantern fan, that's for sure. Good content from the comic book world to satiate and quench our thirst for content. So, but that brings this episode to an end, Donnie. And but the conversation around Green Lantern is never over. And
of course not.
If you want to talk to either Donnie or I about Green Lantern or any of the other nerdy subjects we talk about on this podcast network, you can on social media. So, Donnie, where do they find you?
You can find me on Twitter, TikTok, or YouTube as The Emerald Enthusiast. Let's talk comics, let's talk collectibles, let's talk Green Lantern.
All right, awesome. You can find me, at least for now, unless that goof starts making us pay for it, because I ain't paying for this shit. But you can find me on Twitter for now, at Adam_LeafFan. And then if that becomes a pay thing, we'll just switch it over to Threads. But for now, it's at Adam_LeafFan on Twitter. I refuse to call it X.
Right.
We have a Facebook group for the podcast network, which is listed in the description below. Click that. I will add you, and we can continue the conversation there. But remember, Green Lantern is forever. From the first issue we reviewed today to the last. So long, everybody.
So long, everyone.